Hello and welcome to Shaman's Dream Gifts. My name is Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, and we are going to be talking tonight about reincarnation. First of all, I want to welcome you all to Shaman's Dream Gifts. We're located at the Fox Run Mall in Newington, New Hampshire. If you have not come to the Fox Run Mall and stopped by to see us, please do so. You would come in by Men's Warehouse, head down towards Victoria's Secret, and we're the best kept secret on the right-hand side on the way to Victoria's. So come in and see us here at Shaman's Dream Gifts. I do want to let you know that Shaman's Dream Gifts this month has rose quartz as its stone of the month, which means that basically any and all of our stone rose quartz is 10% off. So come and pick up a piece. We did it in honor of Mother's Day, and it will be on sale till the end of the month. Also here at Shaman's Dream Gifts, we do have readers several days of the week. I do intuitive intervention sessions on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We also on Thursdays have Angie D'Anjou, who is a spiritual consultant. On Fridays we have Amy Sabantino, and starting on Sundays we have Kim Whitley. And our number of people that are doing intuitive energy healing work is increasing all the time. So stop by, check out our crystals, check out our readers, and say hello, and that you saw this on a YouTube video or on Periscope. So again, my name is Dr. Kevin Ross Emery. You can just call me Dr. Kevin, and you can come to mydrkevin.com, MYDRKEVIN. I chose to speak about reincarnation. I've been teaching reincarnation classes since the early 90s. It was one of the first classes I ever taught when I started my spiritual practice, my full-time practice as a spiritual catalyst back in 1990. My first class I ever taught was reincarnation, the second was ghost, and then the third was my psychic development course. All of those classes in some shape or format you can actually find on DVDs today. You know, the interesting thing about reincarnation is that a lot of people talk about that they feel like they have deja vu, but they don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. They know they've been somewhere that they've never been before, but they don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. They dream about a time or have a calling to a certain time period, but don't necessarily believe in reincarnation. They wonder, what is reincarnation and how does it happen? And a lot of people think it's not part of the religious system that I grew up with. I didn't grow up in a religion that believed in reincarnation. And most people would tell you that if they were Christians or Jewish or Muslim, and they would be wrong. Because in all of the original text, reincarnation was actually very present. In all the ancient writings that were part of the Jewish faith and went on to be the basis for both Christianity and Islam, had reincarnation in it. Reincarnation was actually taken out of the religious text in 535 AD by Emperor Constantine, who decided that people would not behave if they knew that they were going to come back. They wouldn't follow the teachings of the church, that it was too confusing, they wouldn't understand it. If they thought that this was their only shot, then they would do what the priest told them. Well, we know where that led the Catholic Church. A few hundred years later, we had the Protestant Reformation, and it's been going downhill ever since. So reincarnation is part of your original belief system. If you are Buddhist or Hindu, if you are Unitarian Universalist, if you are Christian, Catholic, Islam, Jewish, Native American, it's part of every major belief system over there that there is some continuation of life after life. Back in the late 50s, the University of Virginia decided to put a great deal of money and effort into proving that reincarnation was bunk. They said that reincarnation, that the goal of the study was to prove that reincarnation did not exist. So a very powerful University of Virginia, powerful university, put a lot of time and money and energy and a few years into chasing down reincarnation stories. Following different stories, following different people, flashbacks, trying to prove that they were just imaginary, made up whole out of cloth, or they were a scam. After several years of looking at all of this, what they came to the conclusion is they couldn't disprove reincarnation. Now, when you're talking about a major university study, coming back with the idea that they could not disprove reincarnation. Now, they didn't say that they could prove it, but they had too much information that could not have any other answer but reincarnation. So they set up to basically make reincarnation a farce, and reincarnation came back and reincarnated as a farce to them. Because there were things that they couldn't explain. There were things that were not logical. So reincarnation in of itself has a long and rich history as parts of major religions, spiritual belief systems, and stories. Hundreds of thousands of stories. But the only reason that they would make sense would be if reincarnation actually existed. So one of my favorite stories that I want to share with you, and then we're going to kind of go into why would we reincarnate. And some of you in this very moment, maybe listening to the sound of my voice, looking at the life that you're living, maybe you are in a bad relationship or no relationship, maybe you're struggling making your bills, maybe you have health issues, maybe you have spouse and family that are driving you crazy, maybe you, whatever, have a job that you hate, and you go, really? I got to come back and do this again? What was I thinking? Well, the bottom line is, you don't come back and do this again. You only get to do this once. So always remember, reincarnation isn't that you die as, John Smith, and a year later you're born as John Smith, and you just keep picking up and running through. No, it's not how it works. So one of the most fascinating stories that I like to share about reincarnation is actually one called Who is Gretchen Gottlieb? Gretchen Gottlieb was somebody who lived in the Midwest. She lived in the Midwest in the 30s, 40s. So when Gretchen Gottlieb was living in the Midwest, one of the things that happened was that she started having dreams. She started having memories. And then she began, when she would do this, she'd go into a semi-trance state, and she would start talking in a language that it took them months and months to figure the language out. And finally, at the local university, they discovered that what she was speaking was, I think it was like 7th or 8th century German. Wasn't even recognizable to the German teacher. There's a few words that said, well, kind of, sort of, there's a Germanic feel to it, but it's certainly like no current language. Now, this woman was in her 20s, late 20s, I believe. But she had never left the Midwest of the United States. She had never spoken a foreign language. And now she goes into trance, and she talks about her life in 7th century Germany, talking about stuff that would only be known today to historians who had studied that period of history. And speaking it in the native language that's not even spoken anymore in that way. And so it's very, again, it's Who is Gretchen Gottlieb? You can find it on the internet, or there was a whole book and a study about it. But that was one of those cases when looked at said, what would be the answer if it wasn't reincarnation? She talked about living before. I always remember this young child that I worked with that was like 5 or 6 years old. And they were born with an aversion to guns. The first time they were ever given a gun, when they were like 2 years old, they broke out in tears. They threw it on the ground. They destroyed it. And anytime there was a movie about war on, they would get all upset and they'd have to leave the room. And they would get very bothered and they'd get very disturbed by all of this. And the parents didn't know why. I met the child when the child was about 7. The child was being brought to me to work with because of the work I do with ADD and ADHD. So what happened was that when the child came, and one of the things that I ask kids and adults that I work with, especially with ADD or ADHD, is, so what do you think you're here to do? And this kid looked me right in the eye, and I knew nothing of that history when he said it, and he goes, I'm here to end war. I said, okay, well, I think that's a good task. Do you know why? I mean, is there a reason you want to end war? And he goes, yeah, He says, I remember getting killed in the fields. And what he basically described was being killed in Vietnam. And he remembered being killed in Vietnam. He remembered watching his family getting killed in Vietnam. He was 7 years old. Before he could even speak, he hated guns, he hated war. He would get hysterical when he would see it. Accident? Really? Come on. No. Now, I mentioned to the parents about what had happened. I wasn't given what one would be called a warm reception, for my opinion, because they felt like it was against their belief system and I was trying to corrupt their child out of being a good Christian. But as I said at the beginning, Christianity until 535 AD taught reincarnation. It believed in it. It was in its sacred text. It was taken out by a man who wanted the church to have more power. So Christianity is a reincarnation religion, as is Judaism, as is Muslim, as is Hindu and Buddhism, as is Native American, as is pagan. So if you think that reincarnation can't exist because it isn't part of your religious belief system, you probably want to check to find out when your religious belief system decided it wasn't convenient to talk about it. Because there was a time period when it made that decision. All original religions referred to the idea of dying and coming back. So the question is why? Why would we live more than one lifetime? What are we trying to do? Is this one so good that we just can't get all the goodness in one, so we want another one? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe that's not the reason. Maybe that's not what's going on. So look at the question is, what is the goal of the soul? What is the soul's goal? If you look at it, and for those of you who have never heard me speak before, you know, God, Goddess, Ali, Buddha, Great Spirit, Great Pumpkin, don't care what you call it. I don't get into religions. They have their own little party. I don't want an invitation. But whatever you call that God, if you think that we as souls spun out in some fashion or format from that God, because I like to call souls cells in the body of God. A cell in the body of God. And so if you are a cell, a soul in the body of God that spun out of God, then what would your journey be? To return to the body of God. To expand that body. You know, we're trying to fatten God up. Make God a little bit more robust. So what do? We as souls bring God the one thing that God could never have before we came. The physical experiences. Because God had no body. God took part of God's self and put it in a body form for the awareness of sensate. For all of the things that we only experience. Could God really know what it was like to cut yourself if God had nothing to cut? Could God know what it was like to bleed if God had nothing that bled? What would really be the experience of painfully falling in love with someone who would never love you back? What would the experience be of childbirth if you never had, and if you were never going to have a baby? You know, and so the other question is, who would father God's child? Or mother it? Humanity is the experience of God on earth. To have the experience of all of these things, so that each and every divine cell of God evolves closer into expanding itself, into expanding into God with a history. We get to give God a history that God couldn't have without us. And that we couldn't have without God. What a perfectly symbiotic relationship. God gives us breath. We give God cigarettes. God gives us the ability to swallow. We give God alcohol. God gives us the ability to love. And we lust. And we love. And we eat good food and we drink water. And we eat bad food and we drink booze. And we love lovingly and we love cruelly. But we have all of these experiences, and the experiences are different. The experience of a woman today, in 2016, in this country, was not the same experience that a woman had in 1916 in this country. Is certainly not the experience that a woman in 2016 has in Zimbabwe or Chad, who's afraid of their kids being kidnapped and sold into slavery. Okay? Nor is that male experience in 2016 the same as the female experience in 2016. So we reincarnate to come back and do a number of things. To grow our experiential base, to have wisdom, to have experiences from which we learn, and that learning evolves into wisdom. Now, when we have the experience, we don't get it. It doesn't evolve into wisdom. It evolves into whining, but no wisdom. Okay? Then we don't get it. And then we will come back, same different gender, same different race, same different nationality, same different ethnicity, same different orientation. We will come back, but we'll still have that experience to learn. We'll have a version of that experience. And then that experience will be there to teach us to something. And then we'll come up and we'll go, here I am again, whether we realize it or not, and I'm going to either learn to embrace wisdom or learn to whine. One or the other. But we'll keep coming back until someday the wine turns sour and we decide to have wisdom. That we decide to take that experience and integrate it into a place where it changes who we are, how we are in the world, how we think, how we believe, and how we act. Wisdom is not just lip service. When everybody, there's an ancient Buddhist saying that I loved. It was on my stationery for years. Now I have one of my quotes on my stationery. I guess my ego got too big, I'm not sure. But anyways, but I had this Buddhist, and it said, to know and not to do is not to know. To know and not to do is not to know. So when somebody says, I know better, no, you didn't. Because if you did, you wouldn't have done it again. There was some part of that you didn't get. You didn't integrate. It did not change you as a person. You may have intellectually got the wisdom, but your heart never got the message. Or your spiritual body never stepped up to the plate. And so you end up repeating it. And some people say, why? Why do I keep on marrying my father that was abusive, that I hated? And why did I keep on marrying them? And then I had them for bosses, and I gave birth to them as children. And in my old age, I'm laying in a nursing home, and what do I have? The spitting image of my father, just like him, as the nurse's aide that puts the pillow over my head and takes me out the door. Well, guess what's waiting on the other side of that door? A chance to do it all over again. Because you didn't learn it. You didn't get it. You didn't integrate it into different choices, different ways of feeling, different ways of being. You did not allow it to evolve you as a person into the next best you. So reincarnation is here to give you experiences that you can only have. You don't know what it's like in this lifetime as a woman to father a child. Now, with a lot of the stuff that's going on, some people could argue with that statement now. There was a time when I could say it safely. But you certainly don't know what it's like to give birth to a child as a man. Because even if you have the operation, you still can't give birth to a child. So there are some experiences that are gender specific. There's some experiences that if you are born at a high caste in India, or into a very wealthy family, are probably going to have a really hard time arranging to have in this lifetime. The other thing is, it's probably going to have a very hard time knowing what it's like to achieve or do or have access to certain things because you chose certain limitations. You may have come in with as much musical ability as Mozart, but if you were born in a country where you never got a chance to ever say a piano in your whole life, how much good did it do you? That potential never got a chance to actualize. Now, the world could be working in funny ways. Maybe you get sold into childhood slavery. Maybe you ended up at a burlesque house. Maybe they just found out you could play a piano. Maybe you played the piano there. That could happen. But let's just say there are things that cannot happen in a lifetime. You cannot spend a whole life and be celibate and father or mother a child. Can't do both. Don't tell me the Mary story. Don't buy it. Okay. So you have reincarnation, so you can come in and experience different experiences from different perspectives. You get to both be the murderer and the murdered. You get to be both the lovelorn and the loved after. You get to be both the parent that left the child and the child that got left. You get to play all of these roles because they all are teaching you things in a way that you can only teach through the experience of being them, and you cannot be all of those things in a single lifetime. So, reincarnation is our soul's journey back to our higher divine self, back to that body of God, back to our full divine nature, fully loaded for bear with all of our experiences, which we've managed after a few thousand years and a couple of 100,000 lifetimes to turn into wisdom. So reincarnation opens up the doorway for you to truly become wise. The assumption being, you're never going to do wise, truly wise in one lifetime. Now, we run into people who are truly wise in a lifetime. They had a few in the back closet along the way to get there, let me tell you. They just didn't pop out and do it all in 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 years. Never were born before and never were going to be born again. Nope, doesn't happen that way. So that's why we have it. Now, sometimes there was a lot of things we can learn. My DVD on reincarnation, which you can get here at Shaman Stream as soon as they get restocked because they're sold out. But as soon as you get but if you come in and get the reincarnation DVD, it's called Future Growth Through Past Lives. Our past lives will also teach us things. They'll give us insights. We will have things that will happen to us within a lifetime that will draw things to us, that will have us, suddenly be interested in a certain time period of history, or a style of dress, or a style of way of doing our house, or we were all colonial until we were 30, and then suddenly we went all Southwest, and we were in jeans, and we're switching past lives that we're drawing off of. We have certain things that trigger certain events. And so we are ready for a past life, or sometimes we're not ready for the past life, but it shows up anyways when we give birth to a child. Because we had a past life with that child. And there are certain dynamics that now open up that never existed until that child was born. I always say that we give birth to our unresolved issues and we call them children. There are many things that one will do for a child that they would never do for themselves. There are battles that they will fight for their child that they never fought for themselves. There are mountains they will climb for a child that they will never climb for themselves. Some parents. There are also some parents out there that not only would not climb a mountain for the child, if a mountain fell on the child, they would not necessarily notice. Parenthood is like any other experience. And some people come in to be really bad parents, and I've met some of them. And some come in to be really good parents. Some children come in to be the savior of their parents' life, and sometimes they come in to be the end of their parents' life. Like the parent that dies in childbirth. Okay? But those are all just experiences. To the soul, they're experiences that are moving them forward. In the human state, they are great sorrows or pains or traumas or great joys and great happiness and great love. And it is the whole world, but it is the whole world, like the anthill is the whole world for the ant. The ant that you probably stepped on when you got in your car this morning, if you crossed your lawn, probably doesn't conceptualize what the bamboo looks like that's growing in Southeast Asia right now. And probably doesn't have any great desire to ever get there, because there's no concept of it. We, in a single human existence, oftentimes cannot get beyond the fact that this is not all of us. This is a single face of a multi-faced us. It is one face of 1,000 faces, or 100,000 faces. It is like that lotus that unfolds. And we are just one single snapshot in time. It sometimes feels like it lasts forever. Sometimes feels like it will never end. But in the reality of the spiritual clock, the hand didn't move even one whole second, and you came and went. In the scheme of things. Does that mean we're not important? Oh no. Every second is important. Every half a second is important. Every quarter of a second, every thought that a second is about to happen is important, if you are fully present in it. And we are all about making differences in the moment that can be far-reaching. We can do something that will affect people in 100 years after we're dead and gone. And we may never even know what it is. We may walk out of here and see somebody that looks very sad or upset and stops and go, "Hi, are you okay?" and give them a smile. And may change that person's life. And they may go on and choose to live and have children, and maybe their child, creates the weapon of mass destruction that blows up the whole planet. And that never would have happened if it hadn't been for your smile. Now, don't you feel better? When we come back, we will recognize people through reincarnation. We will suddenly look. And if it hasn't happened to you, you probably haven't paid attention, or you're very, very young. You run across somebody and you just go, "I feel like I've known them my whole life and I just met them." They just feel right. Maybe it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, or an in-between, but it doesn't have to be. It could just be a good friend. It could be a passing somebody that you never see again, but you spent 1 hour of conversation that changed your life, and they felt so familiar that you're suddenly like, "I was telling this stranger things I have never said before." And they said something to me that completely, and somebody, "Oh, it must have been an angel." Well, maybe it was an angel, or maybe it was just somebody that you had a soul contract with, that they were going to walk in your life, and you had these past lives together, and they were going to give you something you needed just when you needed it, and that was the only thing that they came in to do in your life. And that was it. That's why every interaction is important. Every interaction is important. And so, as we go from lifetime to lifetime, and we bring with us from lifetime to lifetime gifts and talents and ideas and people and connections and experiences and soul contracts. That's why it's important to know about past lives. Your past life can give you answers, can give you insights, can help you figure out problems that you didn't understand why you had them, or to explain a connection that you don't understand why you have it. Now, I'm going to give the codicil here. This is just a little brief conversation on reincarnation tonight. Obviously, if you want the full Monty, you can come get the DVD. It's 2.5 hours. And at the end of it, I actually walk people through how and regress them into their most important current past life. Not their most recent, but the one that's most affecting them. And you can actually do this meditation once a year. If you have the DVD, you can just play it over and over again. Every time you feel like something has shifted and I feel like there's something about a past life I need to know, you do it, and that meditation will take you to a new past life. But I do want to put out something about past lives that is a huge misconception. And one of the misconceptions that's out there that, to me, is a little more unpleasant than nails on a chalkboard is the amount of people who completely do not get, do not understand, and have no concept of what karma is, and use the word like it was, pass the great pond, please. Hey, here, karma. So, what have we done to it? Well, we've kind of westernized it, we've kind of Christianized it, we've kind of made it as a punishment, we made it as a reward. It is none of those things. And so I'm not going to go a lot into what karma is and isn't. That's not what this talk is about. But what I do want to talk about is that if you ever go to somebody and they say to you that you had somebody in your life that's driving you crazy or being abusive or doing all of these things or being all of these things, and you have to put up with it because you did such and such or so to so them in a past life. Oh, and I've heard this. I've heard him sitting across me going, yes, I know my husband is very abusive, but I murdered him in a lifetime, and this is my karma, and this is how I'm making up for it. Bull crap. That is not how it works. You never come into a lifetime to be abused, to bless your abuser and say, now are we even? I fed you poison, you kicked me down the stairs. Can we call it now? Do we have to keep doing it? No, no, no. You are always here to figure out how to be empowered, how to move forward, how to evolve. And if the two of you danced a dance in the last lifetime, maybe it was part of your soul contract to poison him. Maybe he needed to be poisoned, to be murdered in a lifetime. Maybe you needed to be strung up and hung by a bailiff in a past lifetime. Maybe that was an experience you wanted, because guess what? To the soul, that's just an experience. Being poisoned isn't death. It's just a small break where you change your clothes and you come back in. And you go from being a 6'5" barbarian to, a 4'10" ballerina. It's just a change of clothes. I'd like to see the ballerina's clothes on the barbarian, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I'm twisted. So anyways, but when you are going through, it is always about the learning of lessons, the gathering of wisdom, and the moving forward. And if somebody is offering you an opportunity to break a karmic tie with somebody so you no longer have to be oppressed and abused, well, there's this little musical I really like called Barnum. And there's a song in it. It's based on the life of P.T. Barnum, and it goes, there's a sucker born every minute, and this minute might just be yours. Because if somebody's going to break some karmic oppressive tie so you can be free, you're being suckered. You're being taken advantage of. You're going from victim to martyr. And I've watched people, and they've sat across tables from me, they've sat in my office, they've cried on my shoulder, they spent tens of thousands of dollars to break karmic ties, to lay relatives to rest, to do all of these things, because guess what? Having psychic abilities does not make you a good person. Does not mean that you're doing good work. And so, as you decide to follow and look at it, and in my book, Combing the Mirror and Other Steps in Your Spiritual Path, I actually have an exercise you can do to help you start to bring up some of your past lives, to see where they were or where they came from. There are indications. But your past lives can lead to future growth. They can help you evolve. They can help you move forward and have a better understanding and accomplish that ultimate goal of experience into wisdom instead of into wine. So this is what reincarnation is. It's a tool. It's an insight. It can come to you in dreams. It can come to you in deja vu. It can come to you in daydreaming. Just a realization, a change of a desire or a want, or the meeting of somebody that says, oh my God, we've done this before, and I just met you. And sometimes the message is run, but you'll figure that out. And sometimes the message is to stay. So I want to thank you very much for joining us for this little fireside chat on reincarnation. Next week, here at Shaman's Dream, our fireside chat will be done by one of our readers, Angie D'Anjou. Angie has recently joined our stable of intuitives and psychics here at Shaman's Dream. She is here every Thursday from 2 to 7 offering readings, and next Thursday she is going to be speaking on basic communication with angels. How to have basic communication with your angel. That is our free fireside chat next week. You're welcome to come in and meet Angie. Again, she's here every Thursday from 2 to 7. I'm here every Wednesday and Thursday morning. On Fridays now, we have Amy Sabentino. Some of you in the local area will recognize Amy. She is a tarot reader as well, and does intuitive insights. And we have added on Sundays Kim Whitley, who used to be up in the Central Maine area, now works outside of Boston, and she does what she calls guided readings. Pay attention, we are growing our intuitive stable here in leaps and bounds at Shaman Stream, and we invite you to come in, check out a crystal, check out a reader, check out a book, and make sure you stop and say hello. And thank you very much for coming. Namaste.